Excuse Deputy Mayor Gruba from the meeting tonight due to illness.
We have a motion to excuse Deputy Mayor Gruba. Do we have a second?
You should sit here.
Councilmember Coffey made a second.
Okay. Any discussion? Councilmember Gassick?
No, I was seconding yes.
Oh, okay. If there's Councilmember Ballard?
Yeah, point of order. Is Councilmember Coffey in the room right now? I don't see her listed.
Yes, she's in the room.
Okay, thank you. There she is. She's right in front of me. I just took the camera angle is so far away I couldn't see. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, we have a no further discussion. Let's vote on the motion. All those in favor, raise your card or raise your hand. Okay, Councilmember Gruba is excused. Clerk, we need to finish the roll call, however.
Right. Councilmember Ballard. Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Councilmember Coffey.
Here.
Councilmember Gassick.
Here.
Councilmember Gorski.
Here.
And Councilmember Harris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda. I would need a motion for that, please.
To move, Mayor.
Okay, it's been moved. Second, looks like Councilmember Barnes is seconded. Any discussion?
I have a friendly amendment to bring up council comments to immediately after 5.1, appointing Michael Davidson to LTAC.
Okay, Councilmember Ballard, you made the original motion.
For clarification, what's the friendly amendment again, please?
To move council comments up to immediately follow item 5.1, the appointment of Michael Davidson to LTAC.
Councilmember comments prior to the appointment of Michael Davidson.
No, actually afterwards, immediately following 5.1.
I am not opposed to that friendly amendment.
Okay, then Councilmember Barnes is still seconding. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor as the agenda as amended, raise your card or raise your hand, please. Appears to be unanimous, so the agenda is approved. First tonight, under presentations 4.1, we have the school impact fees presented by Mr. Lewis, but I believe Director Kincaid is going to introduce that first. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Several months ago, I brought a presentation to council about different types of developer fees that could be collected, could be considered for school impact, park impact fees, and roads and the like. And at that time, we were talking with the Steilacoom School District about whether or not the council would like to consider the adoption of a school impact fee ordinance. And that was met with a favorable consideration. And so I have been working with Sean Lewis with the Steilacoom School District and even the Planning Commission on the pieces that would need to be in place for you to be able to have that before you for consideration, which includes, you know, the comprehensive plan amendment is one piece, which has been through the Planning Commission and will be before you shortly. And then tonight, Mr. Lewis is going to present to you the nuts and bolts of the Steilacoom School District's formula for a school impact fee for you to just kind of get that context and background for future discussion. So Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Director Kincaid. Mayor Frederick, members of the council, thank you very much for allowing me to come and make a presentation. For the record, my name is Sean Lewis. I represent the Steilacoom Historical School District and Dr. Kathy Waite, our superintendent, is on YouTube watching tonight, as are several of our board members. And we very much appreciate us having the opportunity to provide this presentation to you to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts. And we look forward to coming back before you at a future time to talk a little bit about a possible ordinance and also an interlocal agreement, both of which would be required in order to move forward any possible impact fee. So I'm going to share my screen, and then hopefully someone will give me the thumbs up that you can see it okay. That's excellent. Thank you very much. So this is a relatively short presentation. It is just going to be nuts and bolts, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that go along with it after the presentation. So to start with, what is an impact fee? An impact fee is a one-time charge that's assessed by a local government. Generally, it's a city, a town, or a county to a new development or a new developer. It can be used to help fund new or expanded public facilities that are reasonably related to that new development. In our case, that would be schools or additional classrooms that are necessary associated with a new development. The impact fee reflects the proportionate share of the costs of capacity needed to serve the new development. So it is, and I'll explain this a little more later, but it's not intended to cover the entire cost of growth, just a proportionate share of growth associated with the new development that comes in. It provides a mechanism for new growth to pay for the cost of growth and to help lower the burden on existing property taxpayers related to new growth coming in. And specifically related to school impact fees, it's only charged to new residential development. We don't charge impact fees for commercial development because commercial development doesn't directly drive additional students in schools. Again, as you probably already know, there are different types of public facilities that can be funded through impact fees: public streets and roads, public-owned parks and open space, fire protection districts, and school districts. Each of them are typically covered under separate ordinances. And in this case, we are only talking about school facility impact fees, not the whole slate. There are a number of rules that go along with school impact fees. First and foremost, a school impact fee can only be assessed on developments by city ordinance or county ordinance on behalf of a school district. So school districts in and of themselves don't have the authority to collect directly impact fees. We also don't have the authority to move forward an ordinance to collect an impact fee. We only do that through jurisdictions such as cities or counties. So in our case, we do collect impact fees for counties, county land within our jurisdiction, and also the town of Steilacoom. So the calculation is done exactly the same for all of those areas. But in the case of the city of DuPont right now, we only collect what are SEPA mitigation fees, or we would only collect city mitigation fees. So those are under SEPA, and those are different than impact fees, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. An impact fee must be connected to a school district's capital facilities plan as adopted either by reference or directly into a city or county comprehensive plan. And that is the process that we have already gone through with your planning commission. A impact fee must be used exclusively for capital projects related to growth, not for operating costs, not for upgrades of existing facilities, unless those upgrades are directly related to growth. For instance, we could build a new school with impact fees. We could add classroom space with impact fees, but we couldn't do upgrades of existing classroom space with impact fees. We could add additional bathrooms to a school using impact fees, but we couldn't upgrade existing bathrooms through impact fees. So it has to be related to capital projects directly for growth. And it has to be used for capacity projects needed to serve increased enrollment. as indicated already, the impact fee has to be related to additional capital facilities that are in our capital facilities plan. Capital facilities plans go out about 6 years, but impact fees must be used within 10 years. And the idea there is that if, for instance, we needed a new school, I'm not sure what happened there. Hold on one sec. If we needed a new school in 6 years, that would allow us to begin collecting an impact fee. And let's say that we also needed to pass a bond 6 years from now. It allows us to get to that 6-year point and then a few more years in order to continue to build that school and spend those resources. So the 10-year period from the time of collection to the time of encumbrance or expenditure, if they're not used within that time, they need to be returned to that developer in a manner consistent with the ordinance. Finally, an impact fee can't be the only source of funding associated with paying for growth. It has to be part of several things. In the case of a school district, it's typically an impact fee or a set of impact fees along with a capital bond, which voters approve, and sometimes state matching funds if the school district qualifies for state matching funds. As I already said, in the city of DuPont, we have the authority as a school district to ask for Growth Management Act related SEPA school mitigation fees. So SEPA, State Environmental Protection Act, allows us to collect mitigation fees from developers directly on individual projects, but the developments have to be large enough associated with the SEPA laws for us to collect. So we're not able, in the case of SEPA mitigation fees, we're not able to collect from all development, only those that are related to, that qualify under SEPA. We negotiate each one of those SEPA agreements directly with developers, and they're used to fund specific improvements directly serving the development. For instance, if a development happened in DuPont, we could only use SEPA funds for an elementary school, for instance, in DuPont. Similarly, if we collected a SEPA mitigation fee in Steilacoom, it could only be used to serve the students in Steilacoom. SEPA doesn't necessarily recognize that like a school district that serves two communities, Steilacoom and DuPont, that creating a school in one community actually may relieve space issues in the other community through a rebounding of schools. In the case of school impact fees, what we're talking about tonight, they, as we've already said, they're established through an authorizing jurisdiction like the city of DuPont, and it's consistent that the impact fee is consistent for all new development and all developers within that jurisdiction, not negotiated individually. So in some cases, it's seen as a fairer way by developers and city because those impact fees have to be approved through ordinance and through a calculation that's done consistently. It's used to fund growth-related improvements throughout our entire school system. So if we collected an impact fee in DuPont, we could use it for our middle school, our high school, or elementary schools throughout the system, as long as they address growth throughout the system. And they're collected from all new residential development, small developers and large developers alike. So there's no cumulative impacts where several small developments might occur and those folks don't pay, but big developers do. Everybody pays an impact fee. So now we get to the real nuts and bolts of this, how it's calculated. So within Steilacoom Historical School District, our capital facilities plan has already identified the need for an elementary school. We are short classroom space in grades K through 5, based on our capital facilities plan as incorporated by an amendment in your comprehensive plan. And an elementary school, for cases of this example, let's say it costs $25 million, which is right now the cost is between $25 and $30 million for an elementary school. Our elementary schools are slated to serve about 500 students, and that means the cost to build a new school per student is about $50,000. So the first thing we have to do is calculate the dollar amount per student for this new facility, and it's 50 grand. And the second thing we have to do is, through a demographer, find out about, on average, how many students are generated per new household. Based on the demographers that we've worked with over the past several years, it's about a half of a student per house. So one student is generated for every new house within our jurisdiction. And that, we call that a student generation factor. So a student generation factor for single family residents within our district is about a 0.5, which means for each house, the cost is $25,000 per each house, 50,000 for two houses. And when you get up to 1,000 houses, that's when it would generate $50,000. So the cost per house is $25,000. We give each one of those single family residents a credit for future bonds that they would be paying, because as I said, every one of these households would have to pay for a bond if we were going to move forward, because an impact fee can't be the sole funding mechanism for a school. So we take the average cost of a house and the interest rates for a 10-year bond, and we calculate what an average household would be paying for bonds over 10 years. And that would be about $8,000. And we deduct that because that household, that new growth, is going to be paying for bonds just like existing property taxpayers. So the calculated fee is $17,000. And then that is, there's a local share adjustment. And simply put, we cut that fee in half because we don't charge the entire cost of growth to growth. We only charge half of that. So in the case of Steilacoom, the final fee charged for each unit under our capital facilities plan comes to about $8,500. Now, though all of these are rounded numbers, when I get to this next slide, you'll see the exact fee, because it's not exactly $25 million for a new elementary school. Our student generation factor is 0.483 instead of 0.5. And the interest rate and the credit we give for bonds is not exactly $8,000. It's a shade above $8,000. So the impact fee, instead of, as it said on the last slide, $8,500, last year, the calculation of the impact fee was $8,104 for a single family unit. And it was actually $0 for a multifamily unit. And the reason it was $0 for a multifamily unit is based on our demographer work. We do not get many students from multifamily units within our jurisdiction. Most of the new multifamily units, condos, townhouses, apartment buildings that are built within our jurisdiction have no kids. And what that means is, once we figure out what the dollar value per unit is and give them credit for the amount of property taxes through bonds they would be paying, the fee calculation ends up to be zero or less. So we don't charge an impact fee for multifamily dwellings. And Pierce County employs a cap on all impact fees of roughly $4,000. So I just wanted to give you the exact figures of what an impact fee would cost within your jurisdiction if adopted. And finally, I just wanted to share with you what our standards of service are and why we think we need a new elementary school. We are not to October of 2021 yet. All of our capital facilities updates are done based on October enrollment counts. But based on last year and September of this year, we think our elementary schools are going to be roughly the numbers you see on the screen. So in this district, you may know, we have K3 elementaries, primary schools. We have a 4-5 elementary, Salters Point Elementary. And then we have a middle school that is 6, 7, 8, and a high school that's 9 through 12. Our elementary schools are all over our service-based standard. So except for Anderson Island, which is an island. So the rest of the district, in the case of our 4-5, grades 4 and 5, our capacity is 340 students. And we are serving 438 students this year. So we have more students than the existing capacity, meaning we have more students in each classroom than we should. We also, that is true for Chloe Clark. In the city of DuPont, we have a existing capacity of 520 students, and we're serving 550 students. And Cherrydale Primary, we have capacity for 340, and we're serving 368. So in all of our elementary schools, even if we did a boundary shift, we are over capacity today. And as we look out 5 years, 2025, 26, our capacity is 1,220, and our projected enrollment is 1,665. So we think we're going to be about 450-ish students above our capacity, which is enough to build a new elementary school. And when we get there, we will we already feel the need to build a new elementary school. We would like to lower our class sizes, but we have no capacity to do that. We don't have enough classroom space. By the time we get to 2025, 26, when we'd like to build an elementary school, we definitely will be bursting at the seams and ready to build a new elementary school. And again, the reason we are bringing all of this information about the nuts and bolts of an impact fee is that new elementary school is going to require us to pass or ask voters to pass a bond. And we believe that new growth should play a part in paying for the additional capacity that's necessary at elementary school. And in the future, there will be capacity needs at middle school and high school as these students begin getting older and older. So right now we feel a pinch at elementary, and it won't be too long before we'll start also feeling a pinch at middle school and at high school. And we believe that that the new growth should play a part in paying for the costs of added growth as developments come in. So that completes my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Mayor, at your discretion.
Councilmember Harris, you had your hands raised for a question.
I just have a question for Mr. Lewis. You talked about classroom population and the number of students enrolled. Do those numbers include those students who are in the Promise program who are tele-schooling from home, and also the high school and middle school co-op students that are homeschool based? Yeah,
I said I was going to stop sharing. Now I'm going to start sharing again. Sorry. So on that final slide that I showed you, we said Promise program and Pride. Those are the two programs that you're talking about. Those, we call those ALE programs, or alternative learning experience programs. Those students are already accounted for in here, outside of the students that are in that capacity number. So we have already deducted all of the students that are either partially homeschool or at high school. We deduct all the students who are in Running Start, the FTE number related to Running Start, and we deduct all of the fully online students.
Thank you for clearing real-time student populations in classrooms and making sure that the general audience listening knows how many students are actually occupying these spaces.
Yes, ma'am.
Additional questions for Mr. Lewis? Okay, well, seeing none, Mr. Lewis, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. That was most informative. I know that our schools are bursting at the seams. I've been in them. My grandkids are in them, so I'm well aware of the situation. So we thank you a lot for that information.
Thank you, Mayor Frederick. And I do also want to thank Director Kincaid for all the help she has been on this issue and a number of other issues as we try to chart a path for building a new elementary school within the city of DuPont. We think it's important for our students and for the citizens that we mutually share. So thank you very much for the time tonight.
Okay, the next item tonight is 4.2. I would like to be the first to thank Councilmember Harris for her time serving on the DuPont City Council. She's been a great advocate for children and youth and spends volunteer time outside of her council duties in the community. Everyone knows about the work she has done on the haunted house, but she has also been very helpful to the council with her experience working at the state legislature. I believe that Councilmember Harris has a vase that we delivered to her. Hopefully she does anyway. But I would like to thank you, Councilmember Harris. There it is. She's got the vase. Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Barnes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you also to Councilmember Harris, my partner in crime in the Planning and Public Works Committee. It's been a joy working with you. I'm sorry to see you go. We'll be worse for it. I hope whatever comes next for you treats you well.
Councilmember Ballard.
Well, having campaigned with Councilmember Harris and worked diligently to get her onto council, I certainly am, this is a hard pill to swallow. But I'd like the public to kind of embrace the fact that Councilmember Harris is part of a very large community of service member families that oftentimes have to make difficult decisions that impact their lives, whether it's changing schools, uplifting careers and moving them, or in this case, leaving city council in order to be closer to their spouse and prioritizing their family above everything else. So in that spirit, and someone that's actually kind of lived that before, I just want to give you the highest praise, Kendra Lee, and thank you very much for your service to our community.
Councilmember Gessick.
Thank you, Kendra. I will keep it short and sweet. You know that I love you and you will definitely be missed personally and professionally. So we wish you all the best and thank you for all you've done for the city of DuPont and for the youth of DuPont and representing the military spouse and military family demographic in our area. We appreciate your input and all that you've done for us.
Councilmember Gorski.
Kendra, thank you so much. I don't think I would ever be able to match the energy that you exhibit. Those days are long gone for me, but I always did appreciate you having a strong voice for the teens, especially in DuPont, because for years we've had all these activities and you just basically led by example and made things happen for a group that was for a long time underrepresented. So I appreciate that, and that you should be commended for.
Looks like Councilmember Coffey has her hand up there. Can you get her on the microphone there, please?
Kendra, can you hear me? I just want to really thank you. I mean, you've brought youthfulness to the council. You've had great ideas that haven't always come across from others, but I really appreciate you, and I really wish you all the luck in your future. And I love your family. Just a great great asset we've had in this community. So thank you very much for donating your time to us, and good luck.
Mr. Takata, you've got your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I want to thank Councilmember Harris for all her support of our staff. She's been a very big staff supporter and been involved in different things with us. And we appreciate she showed up for dodgeball with the staff to help with morale. So I just wanted to thank her for that and wish her the best.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are not quite words to describe the amount of sadness I feel leaving my friends, my career, my life, and the council position that I worked really hard for and that I love doing. I was a volunteer in DuPont 4 weeks after I showed up, and I never stopped. I'll never stop believing in our beautiful town and the council that you have in front of you and the people who staff it. And through the good, bad, and the ugly, and the things that have happened to me and my family that have been very ugly lately, I still love and adore each and every one of you. And I think that you guys just keep moving forward every single day. Keep the positivity, keep pushing the agenda. Get a skate park, you guys. Seriously, let's get a skate park. Every town in Washington has one but us. Keep doing things for the forgotten, the teenagers. Keep doing the way run for blue. Remember that military families need uplifting when they uprooted. And, you know, keep fighting the good fight for the city of DuPont. Keep it beautiful.
Thank
And
you,
thank you all
Thank you.
for believing in me every day.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 4.3, a financial report. Director Oaksmith is going to cover that for us. Go ahead, Karma.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens of DuPont. I send out a almost monthly prior month revenue and expense report to council, and now we're going to just kind of report on those during the meeting so that the citizens are aware of what the council is receiving and the health of the city of DuPont. So it's a small 3-page report that I'm not bringing up, but I will give you the highlights. Right now, the city is doing really well. Our general revenue funds, which support most of the city, are above 35% more right now and as of August than they were in 2020, which is very wonderful. As you know, during 2020, we had COVID and things did not look good. Although we were able to not lay off one employee or furlough, we cut back expenses and we worked really hard to keep the city flowing with what we had. And I thought we did a really fantastic job with that. It took all of us to work together on that, and I'm pretty proud of our city for that. Also, right now, the sales tax receipts for the city are looking wonderful. They are 57% higher than they were last year at the same time period. Our biggest drivers on that are construction, hospitality, which is wonderful because that means lodging tax dollars for the citizens and the city, and retail is up as well. If you need further information on that, let me know. I'm going to scroll down my report a little bit and talk about some other revenue highlights. Business and occupation taxes, which include all businesses bringing in revenue to the city, as well as square footage tax on those warehouses, are up. Even though we have a few empty warehouses, we're still above 2020 by 36%, which I think is pretty fantastic. Our permit revenues, which can fluctuate, that just depends on what is happening in the city. There's really no way to 100% project what we're going to be getting in permit revenues, but right now we're 68% over what we were last year. And I'll give an example that I've given before. Permit revenues in 2017 were less than $30,000, but in 2019, we had over $300,000 in permit revenues. Lodging tax, which I talked about in the hospitality region a moment ago, is up. It's 6% higher, which isn't phenomenal, but it still does show that people are staying in our hotels. And we do have several lodging tax programs that are in place right now that help with the heads and beds is what we would say for that. I'm going to skip through the department report, but I am going to let you know that our general fund and other fund balances, ending fund balances are quite healthy at this time because we still are being pretty conservative with our spending. You'll see further down tonight in the consent report, 7.2 talks about our expenditures, which are budgeted. That shows you what we spent during a certain duration. Right now, our general fund ending fund balance is at 2.9 million, which is pretty healthy. We did receive some ARPA money, which is the federal funding money, which we have not spent any of yet because we have a subcommittee that we're meeting with, and we'll work together with the subcommittee and the department heads in the city to bring ideas of the expenses we want to use for those ARPA federal funds. We'll bring those to the council. There's not a big rush on that right now because we have several years to spend it and the rules are not final with the federal government at this time. The other funds look healthy as well. I'm not going to go into too much more detail. I just wanted to give you a quick recap of what was happening here in the city. Things are looking good, and I commend my coworkers and the team for working so hard to keep the budget flowing and going and being conservative with their expenses. And thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Director Oaksmith? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. This is 5.1, appointing Michael Davidson to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. Director Oaksmith, you also can introduce this one, it looks like.
I don't have that one on my docket. So Carrie, would you mind bringing up that? I am on the lodging tax on the finance side. I'm not in the committee. But okay. I'd be happy to talk about it.
We sent out Mr. Davidson's application out to the council members last week. I don't have anything to share. That's a confidential document.
And so also we have to have equal amount of providers, a minimum of 2, and equal number of users. And he's actually the sales manager for Home to Suites and for the Hampton Inn. So he will serve as our second member as we get down, so we can actually have our lodging tax committee meeting for phase 1 or phase A, I guess I should say.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. We do have lodging tax applications open right now for 2022 part A. They close the 16th. The applications are on our website. We have emailed all former applicants as well as put them out there. I'm working with Councilmember Gassick to get a meeting set up so that we can have a lodging tax meeting. Again, I sit in that on the budget side. I'm not a member or voting member, but we do have Ms. Walker as a voting member and then several support team as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we can entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Davidson to the LTAC committee. Anyone want to make that motion? Okay, Councilmember Gask has moved. Second, looks like Councilmember Barnes had his hand up first. Do we have any discussion about this? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your card or your hand. That appears to be unanimous, so Mr. Davidson is appointed to the LTAC committee. Next, we have public comments, and this is the first. There's 2 periods of public comments.
We have a friendly amendment for council comments.
Right. That's right. Okay. Excuse me. We do have the discussion item. Councilmember Gorski, did you want to?
Yes, I do. I'll start. We haven't met for quite a while. So since July, there's been a lot of talk going on, primarily online, but also it has made it into our inbox, and you could, classify it as a rumor. It could be an area of great concern, or it could be just a character assassination. I'm not sure which. but they are speaking of somebody who you appointed to one of our commissions, an individual that is basically facing an online attack. And I'm concerned by this for a few reasons. And one is we have to remember that being on a DuPont commission is often a thankless job. It's volunteer for the most part. It's unpaid, and we have a history of difficulty in filling these positions for all of our commissions. So the fact that an individual would be singled out and basically tried by a mob online with gross accusations stating that people who work at City Hall should fear for their safety. People who transact business at City Hall should fear for their privacy and safety, and other members of commissions should fear for their safety and privacy. So I think since, Mr. Mayor, that you appointed this individual that's been the target of this abuse, you probably would want to take a few minutes to reaffirm the character and the standing of this individual that you chose to place on this commission, because we just ended up placing someone else on the LTAC, and I hate to have them find out that by mere association with the city of DuPont, they become a target, as do businesses in town, and where does it stop? Does it stop with, individuals and businesses, or do the vendors at the farmers market have to worry if they've run afoul of a group of online concerned citizens? So I think it's really incumbent on you to show some leadership in this and, talk to the citizens directly right now and reaffirm your choice, your appointment that you brought forward, and that person we presume that you vetted and put forth, and that, and allay the fears of the community that there is nothing to worry about what happens at City Hall with our appointees, our commissioners, or our volunteers. I think that would send a strong statement to end this kind of ridiculous behavior online. So, I will yield some of my time right now if you would like to just address the citizens of DuPont, telling them that you stand by your choices and that no one has any fear in doing any business at City Hall.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and I'll take those under advisement. I would also refer to the city attorney for advice on that as well. I know that some of the things that happen online are over the top and all that, but keep in mind that I make nominations for commissions, and the council are the ones that vets that. So I'll take that under advisement and I'll talk to the attorney about that later. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but we also take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States as well as the laws of DuPont in the state of Washington, and everyone is afforded due process. Now, while it's true that you bring forward and we affirm that, we are basing largely our affirmation on your recommendation. So I find it kind of disingenuous to go and seek out cover at this point from the city attorney when I am not naming a single individual. I'm saying every one of your appointments, every person that you have put forth to us and is now currently serving. And if you're unprepared to do that right now, I really don't see what the point is in continuing with the meeting.
Well, I disagree with that. We can discuss some of these items offline if you want to make specific points about any individual. I'll be glad to hear about it from you. This is all kind of disingenuous as well by just throwing something out, out in the public arena here without talking about any specific person, which you shouldn't do in the public arena anyway.
Right. But what people are saying is they are afraid to come to City Hall. They should be fearful of being in City Hall. That is
they are
outrageous.
attacking our families. They're attacking our characters. They're attacking our jobs. You interview these people. They go through an application process. You bring them to us to a point, and we trust you. We trust you in your opinion. And we want to honor our mayor and put these people on councils, and then they come for us and our families. Have you got any idea what me and my daughters have been through in the last 4 weeks? And what has happened to my children?
This is outrageous. I mean, this is a person of color, by the way. So I don't want anyone, and we had this whole go around with the kneeling and the flag thing a few years back with the last mayor. And I don't want to have anyone think that this community supports these kind of assassinations of character based on a few people's judgment. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that anyone would have fear, and for the benefit of the people who work at City Hall, that they should work in fear around any of the people or the appointments that you have made. I mean, it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. There are members of your family taking part in these conversations. I think you should speak strongly to your decision. And that's it, just to reaffirm your decision, because we're the ones stuck on council answering angry, outrageous emails, of which, by the way, I have offered to meet with the people who have contacted me personally. No one's even responded. So I have to believe that I'm chasing a ghost. And it's a big, colossal waste of time. And so what does it say to, unfortunately, to Mr. Davison, who wasn't here, that now that he is part of this community of volunteers that was just drafted into service, that on a whim, that he could have his whole life put before everybody in DuPont for whatever reason. That's ridiculous. Like I said, where does it stop? Does it stop with businesses, business owners? Who wants to do business in a town where everyone's going to scrutinize you personally? Who's going to want to go and unfounded by a court of law, by the way? Who's going to want to volunteer in the future? Who's going to want to be at a farmer's market as a vendor? If you know that if you run afoul of the wrong people in DuPont, that this is just going to spiral out of control, and that the leader of the town is going to sit mute over it.
No one has any reason to be fearful about working at City Hall or anything else. If someone was attacked inappropriately, Councilmember Harris mentions her family. I don't know the details of any of those things. So, but if you want to have a meeting with me and speak about it privately, that'll be fine.
If you're not going to address it here, I have no reason to stay in this meeting. There's no business to conduct at this point, because we are in a leadership deficiency right now. We're asking you to just make a simple affirmation of your decisions, and you don't even want to do that. So I'm sorry, but I can't stay with this meeting. I'm just done.
Well, my decisions on any personnel were the best decisions made with the information I had at the time. There's always additional or new information that happens. So this has happened in the previous administrations as well. I think we all know that. So we still, we have any other comments here? Okay. Well, let's move on. Then we have a time for public comments. This public comment period excludes new business and public hearings. So clerk, did anyone call in for the general public comments?
We're done. No, we don't.
Mayor, I have a point of order.
Yes.
Due to the number of council members previously present, I don't believe we have a quorum.
You're correct.
No, we do not have a
You
quorum.
don't have a quorum now?
Nope.
Okay, well, we had a quorum up to this point. So in that case, it is 7:19 and I'll adjourn the meeting.